I started to work in the sand quarry. I was 9 years old. So
which was a sand mine.
yeah, sand mine.
And what are you doing? You're using a shovel to pick up sand and
Yeah,
put it in
pick up
piles.
sand or dig sand, on the mountain. Um, so I mean, I know that I get to realize that even though I have less, I work for those less and I work hard for that. And even though they have more, they don't really know the value of what they have. So in fact, I'm not beneath them. In fact, I'm quite superior in
Why were you
some way.
kicked out of the classroom that day when you
Uh,
were
I think he was scholarship. That exact same day, I think was scholarship. The scholar fee.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
were
the
kicked out
scholar
of
fee.
school because you didn't have the money.
Yeah, because I haven't paid the annual fee. I haven't completed the annual fee, and yes, that day he was it. But he was the same thing over and over. This year, next year, the year after, and that day, I think it was a signal, and now I'm like, this is going to change. And but the problem now, I was in the situation that I needed to do more than others to be noticed. I wanted to prove them that that's no the perception that they have of me is not who I am. I'm better than that, and yeah. So I was 13 years, and that's the day that I decided that I was going to be a professional fighter, professional boxer. It was the day that I really decided. Growing up, I want like karate, I want this, I want that. But I get to the point that I want something that not only will be my passion, but at the same time will provide for me and help me to provide for my family as well. And then I come across like, okay, boxing combat sport is the thing to do. But problem, I'm 13 years old. There is not there's not a gym in 50 miles radius, and I never see a gym. I never saw a gym before then, and even after that time, I think I stayed in the village until I was 22. Was the moment that I'm like, okay, enough is enough. I can just be dreaming. I have to take action. I have to do something for that dream. Then I leave the village. I moved to the city. I moved to some place that I don't know. And then just like sell everything that I have to start boxing. And I was 22 at that time.
You fought 5 times in Europe before you were signed for the UFC, which is quite remarkable because a lot of people spend many, 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 many years trying to get into the UFC. You fought just 5 times in Europe before you were offered a chance to fight in the UFC.
I wasn't even planning to go to the UFC. And but as soon as I started to fight in France, then it became very hard for me to have a fight in France. People didn't want to fight me.
Why?
Or they say I'm brutal. And I'm like, it's a fighting game. I mean, the goal is to be brutal. And then I'm not having fight because I'm brutal. Like
I heard your coach, he actually posted on Facebook saying, asking if anyone in Europe wanted to fight you. The
That's
post says,
true.
will anybody in Europe fight Francis?
Yes.
Nobody wanted to fight you.
I mean, no anybody at that level, because even though a lot of people didn't want to fight me, I was still unexperienced. So it's not like they will just give me to anybody, but nobody either like want to take a risk. There's not a gain for a elite fighter to fight me. He's risking of losing everything, but not quite a lot to gain.
Were you aiming to be in the UFC? Because now you knew what MMA
No,
was. But when you started becoming an MMA fighter, were you trying to get into the UFC?
no.
How did that happen?
I was just like, training because I had time. I was jobless, so I have all my time, and I like to train. And I found MMA. I found MMA very exciting. I like all those stuff, so I was training boxing, MMA, and then I started fight MMA. And sometime maybe I will have like couple €100 fighting MMA, was very welcome at the time. So I'm like, let's do this. But that was it. And people keep saying, oh, if you improve your jiu-jitsu, if you do this, you're going to become a UFC champion. I'm like, then what? I really I was so focused on boxing. And then, but I think like MMA came to me and gave me that opportunity. And then all of the sudden, I'm here, I have the UFC contract.
How did that happen? How did that happen? Did they call you or your agent or your manager?
So I think Fernando, a guy that was a manager at time, Thiago,
Okay.
Thiago Okamura.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he was the guy that was pitching me to the UFC.
Okay, so your manager, your coach knew someone who was pitching you to the UFC?
Yeah, a manager.
Okay.
And then that's how I get the UFC contract.
Where was your first fight in the UFC?
Orlando. Yeah.
Was that your first time in America?
Yeah. It was the first time. And I remember I get there and I'm like, okay. And there was somebody at the airport with a tablet with my name on it, and then picked me up with a Cadillac, brought me to the hotel, the Hyatt residency. They checked me in, brought me to my room.
How did it feel?
Then I call home, I call my mom, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I think your son have made it. Finally get to that, I get to America, basically. So that's what, because for so many years, America was the dream to get in America. And I get in America, and in a big way, not the way that I get in Europe, because I get in Europe in the service door. I get in America basically on the red carpet. That was it.
When you left Cameroon, you had a really clear goal. You had this vision, a really, really clear goal. What is that?
To stand on top of the mountain.
And you stood on top of the mountain.
But there's a biggest mountain.
What's the biggest mountain?
There's always a biggest mountain. There's always a mountain ahead that is bigger.
What is the big mountain in front of you now?
What's coming?
What is that?
Another fight.
Do you want to become the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing as well?
That's never been my goal. My goal was really, because I was aware of the situation. My first fight in boxing was less than a year ago, October 2023. And I was already 37. It's not a moment in your life that you're expecting to have a career into a combat sport like boxing. He was just like, okay, what can I do? And I think that question still stands. And even for MMA, I think there's still a lot of things for me. I've been doing even MMA for just 11 years. And I think I still have a lot of things to learn, to experiment, to show in the fight. I think I still have a lot, and I still have that passion. I'm not very young, but I still have a couple years in front of me to be doing it, because after this, you have to remember that after this, maybe by the time I'm 40, 42, then I'm retired. What an early retirement. We only have that short window of a time. Then at 42, it's a time that most people, a career just pick up, but we are forced to retire by that time. So why would I just do what I can do until then and see how far I can go?
You fought Tyson. Many people think you won the fight. An incredible fight. You fought Anthony Joshua. You lost that fight. And I think at the end of that fight, Anthony actually says, you need to carry on boxing. You need to carry on going. And I think that's the sentiment that everyone has.
No, I'm carrying on. I don't really take that fight as a note, because not to say, you cannot, you will be a fool if you're going to fight basically in boxing somebody like Anthony Joshua and don't think that you can lose, right? Or trying to make an excuse of losing. If there's a somebody that you can lose against in a combat sport, then he's somebody like Anthony Joshua, right? But honestly, on that fight, there was a lot of unfairness, and then which might have been for something or not, but there was a lot of unfairness. Unlike the Tyson fight, that everything was straight, and I think nobody was giving me a chance, and then everything was fair, no sneaky stuff. But the second one, he was so messy.
What do you mean?
A lot of tricks. Like, they will get you everywhere that I was going in that week. I have to wait at least 1 hour, 1 hour and a half before the beginning or before Anthony Joshua arrived. But they always send a car to pick me up, like that amount of time. Even the fight day. The fight day, I stay in the locker room for 4 hours and a half. They send a car to pick me up, pick up time 10:30. Because you're supposed to fight. They tell me up front I'm supposed to fight around midnight and 1 p.m. So pick up time.
1 a.m.
Yes, and 1 a.m. Sorry. Yeah. Pick up time 10:30. It's like, okay, good. It's how it works. It's that amount of time. Then you get in the arena. They're like, oh yeah, there's a producer. Like, oh, we are running behind clock on the broadcasting, so we might be fighting at 1:45. Okay, it's not that bad. I've been training to fight in that time frame, in around 1 p.m., 1 a.m. Bro, we are sitting there and then watching Anthony Joshua arrive in the arena at 1:30. Like, how come you tell me that, with you guys tell me that I'm going to fight around midnight and 1 o'clock, or that is delayed, I'm going to fight at 1:45, and then he's now just arrived. When he arrived, we know that it's about 2 hours before there is a fight. You don't get in the arena 1 hour before the fight. No, it's 2 hours is the average. And stuff like that, they did a lot. Again, not to say I couldn't lose the fight, but...
Do you think they were doing that intentionally?
Yeah.
You think that?
Yeah. I said the whole week, he was like that.
They were wasting your time.
I mean, I think it's a trick. I didn't know before, but I think it's a trick that they have in boxing. They have a lot of tricks, and in fact, like in the week, during the week, my coach Dewey, because he's a very calm person, and he was like, he get to the point that he was really mad and was yelling about it, like, no, this is how you get fighter tired, and I'm like, no, it's okay. I didn't know how deep was the problem, until I get in the final set. Then I'm like, okay, this is serious. But he was too late.
Were you tired by the time?
Very tired.
By the time
I was sleeping.
You were sleeping before?
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just a fatigue or whatever. I was in the locker room getting warm up and feeling asleep. So that's why, like, personally, yeah, I take that loss, but I don't put it in the context. I think it could have been different.
Do you think you could have beat him?
I still think I could have beat him. I could have lost too, but no, that easy. Yeah, I think it was so easy. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Did you feel like yourself?
No. No at all. No at all. But I think it was my mistake. I shouldn't have done good in the Fury fight. I think that was what was expecting in the Fury fight. For me to lose, maybe in that fashion.